Nations. The athletes have assembled from around the world here in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, as we continue action now in the third rotation of events. And one of the stars of the meet here from China, the bronze medalist from the Olympic Games just passed, Zhang Nan.
Zhang Nan is excellent on uneven bars. Just beautiful to watch, as many of the Chinese are on this event.
Surprisingly, not in the top three all-around scores halfway through.
She has her two best events to go right now, on even bars and then on balance beam.
So we look for a strong finish.
And what we really want to look at is the pirouetting moves. Watch her shoulder angle. It's completely open, even though her hands are many times turned the wrong way. Right here, 1.5 turn. And right there, she was supposed to do a full twist on one arm, which is called an oh-no, and she had to bail out.
An oh-no.
An oh-no, and it was oh-no. Unfortunately, she just didn't get her hips and her feet up and over the bar enough to get the momentum going that she needed. So she's going to cut her losses and finish up with a nice high double pipe dismount. Not the same routine that she competed at the Olympic Games or the World Championships, but again, this is kind of a rebuilding year for her individually, just kind of getting things back together after the Olympic Games. And right there, she wasn't able to get her hips and feet over the bar.
No man's land.
Normally, she would do this completely open. Today, she does it with a double pipe.
Zhang Nan of China, 8.6. Not bad, considering. And here she is again, the 10-year-old Tatyana Nabieva of Russia. 10, I said.
And she started
with
a rail press to handstand, which I like.
How about that for a power move? And that.
Many gymnasts don't do that strength move anymore. Most of the time it's because they just flat out don't have time in their routine to do it.
You know, her musculature for a 10-year-old is remarkable through the shoulders.
Well, you can see her stomach muscles through her leotard. It's incredible. 10 years old.
Well, you can see mine too, you know. You haven't seen me in a leotard, but how about that? 10 years old.
She's very nice and composed throughout this routine. She's just taking it one step at a time. You can tell she's thinking about each skill.
Yeah. There's a certain fear-less factor at that age, too. You haven't learned to fear the apparatus.
Absolutely. You haven't really thought about the consequences of falling at this point.
Right.
It's still just fun and exciting to try new things.
She kind of fits on the beam like I would be on a diving board at that age.
Like a sidewalk for her.
Yeah.
Her feet are so tiny.
Well, you're right about the ab muscles, though. All kidding aside. Bang! Wow!
Double side twist, very nice routine. And she has said that this is the event that she really wanted to hit because she just falls all the time on it, but not tonight.
Not at all. Look at the, I love her facial expression. Very intense.
Very intense, very composed. It just doesn't seem shaken by anything. I imagine we'll be seeing a lot of her in the future.
Yeah, we'll be looking back at this footage someday as classic stuff. Oh, there's a smile. And now, a nice score, 8.45. Celeste Visagi of South Africa. Yes, all the way here from Cape Town. Our first look at Celeste. As I said, 9 nations assembled. What a great job the residents of Pottsville, Pennsylvania do every year with the support of the Yuengling breweries here. Sponsor this event, pardon me, Shannon.
Celeste is so excited to compete at this competition, not just to be out here competing in the United States, but also to be competing with the likes of Zhang Nan, Olympian, and that's kind of what this competition is all about. You know, bringing a lot of different athletes together, young and older, so that they can compete together.
Yeah, and you can see some of the younger athletes watching her when she is competing, the Olympic bronze medalist.
They are. They're watching, they're learning, they're trying to figure out, okay, what is she doing that I need to do to be an Olympic champion?
girls are here for 5 days, so there are a lot of activities where they get to interact and talk and learn.
Some good tumbling by Celeste so far. That was just a 2.5 twist bench front, her last tumbling pass.
Boy, how things have changed. Isn't that nice to see from South Africa?
Some great gymnastics, absolutely. Right here, nice high double pike, and she just kind of crumbled on the landing. Looked like her knees just buckled underneath her.
Right at the end, but overall, nice performance, and she should be happy with herself. Celeste Visagie from South Africa.
Here's one of her opening tumbling passes.
She got a little offline on that. Does that count? Do you try to keep that diagonal pretty tight line?
You try to stay straight on the diagonal. Being a little bit off isn't going to be a huge deduction, and she was able to get her feet all the way around on that triple twist.
8.15 for Celeste. You can see a couple of athletes there. Boy, what a great picture, and what that says about the strides they've made in South Africa. Stephanie Syke again from the United States. 17.3, her score through 2 rounds, through 2 rotations.
This routine is pretty packed. Right here, she's going to do a free hip, blind change to a Stalter, and she just doesn't quite make it up. Again, you have to get your feet and your hips up on top of the bar if you want to pirouette on top.
Her feet dragged across the mat. Is that a deduction?
That is a deduction. It's going to be a 3/10 deduction. She finishes up strong with a reverse hecht and a nice side double tuck, sticking that landing.
Good finish.
And here's her mistake. Right here, she does a blind change Stalter, and she needs to get her hips up and over the bar. Like I said, she finishes up strong. Nice, clean double tuck dismount, sticking that landing, minimizing deductions.
Syke, 7.8, her score on the bars. To the beam, and someone who has been on the beam, one of our leaders. In fact, she's out in front of the pack halfway through. Chris Kosha of the United States.
Little bobble on that full turn. It's getting a lot of the athletes today. One arm back handspring to a layout step out, and she's got some knee flexion going on. She's got a little bent knees on these skills, little flexed feet, and that's going to cause her to wobble in certain skills.
She's the overall leader halfway home by 2/10 over another American, Kayla Hoffman, but that may have cost her right there.
That may have just cost her. It's obviously a 5/10 deduction on a skill called an Inodi, which is a half turn front handspring. Lots of little bobbles in there, here and there.
You can see her struggling to keep it together.
And you can see the difference between her and the last Russian that we saw on beam, just the composure. Dismount was an interesting dismount. She didn't actually run into it. She just took one step. Amazing that she could get a powerful dismount. And there you can see her leg bend in the back, and that's really going to knock you off the beam. It doesn't allow you to stay in direct line with the beam.
So Chris Kosha, who averaged 9.375 on each of her first 2 events, here on the beam, trying to stay out in front, just an 8.1. That will hurt her at the end of the day. To the vault, Chris Vakulik of Canada.
Yurchenko, nice high layout. Gets a lot of distance and power from the horse for just a little thing.
Effortless. Good speed down the runway.
Very good speed, good block, and a lot of these girls that are only competing a layout at this time, next year will be twisting these vaults.
So not a great deal of difficulty. The score 8.6. Well done. Han Bin of China. 16.925 through her first two exercises and a bad start to the bars.
And that is unfortunate. That's a kip up, which is just a small skill between the uneven bars. And unfortunately, it's very difficult. You have to time it just right. And those bars are a lot wider than they look.
I wouldn't have thought that. You pointed it out earlier. They're young. Their hands are small.
Beautiful Ono. Full twist on one arm, right to a Jaeger.
Well, she's coming back strong after the shaky start.
Watch her form. I mean, her legs are glued together, toes pointed. Everything to perfection.
Very nice lines.
Beautiful stretch double out dismount.
Well, what a recovery for the Chinese Han Bin.
And this is really kind of a freak thing that happens, that she would miss her hands, and then you could see they just slipped off. The difference between 1 or 2 inches.
Boy, what the score might have been, because she is awarded 8.85. Very solid score after that fall. Katarina Kramarenko from Russia, another of the young hopefuls here. So the Russians bring 3 young teenagers and a preteen to the Friendship Classic.
And Katya, as her teammates call her, has consistently been in the top 6 on the Russian team in the junior division. Very solid backhand spin layout, step out.
So many of the young Russian women named Ekaterina, of course, after Catherine the Great. Whoops.
And an unfortunate miss. When you bend over like that, your chest goes to the side, and there's just not a whole lot of hope of saving it.
17.85 through 2 rotations for Katya.
And those 2 skills should be connected. She'll likely get a deduction for the break. Beautiful full twisting swing down. She actually finishes the entire full twist before her hands touch the beam. And another nice high double tuck dismount. And even after the fall, she didn't seem to be, she seemed to adjust very well to it. She was able to finish her routine without being too shaky. Right there, you just saw her bend over, her chest dropped down, and that just pulled her right off the beam. She finishes up here with a double tuck, trying to stick that landing.
Katya, and you see the young Russian girls, 8.4 on the beam. Now, the United States, Grace Taylor, she sits in